Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am building something hopefully kind of interesting. I had a couple people ask if I could do some more kit bashing. It's been a while since I have chopped up plastic and tried to make something, so I am going to go through my bins and pull out some random objects, see what speaks to me. Here is my starting point. I have these closet lights. They're like battery operated, and they have a pull string on one side and a bulb on the other, and then there's the battery pack. So I thought, why not turn one of those into a person and use the light bulb as a head, and thereby make this character that I'm about to build a functional lamp slash prop. So I am going to take a bunch of random junk, maybe throw in a couple of random kits that I have picked up over the years, and hopefully make something that is presentable. Fingers crossed. Today we are building a lamp character thingy, kit bashing, keywords. Let's get to building.
So the first thing I did was get familiar with the object the entire project will circle around, this light bulb. I see how it works, take it apart, and logically start to get a game plan in mind. I got a 4-pack just in case I broke one, there would be redundancies. These have sat in my storage closet for well over 3 years before I finally decided to use them. I am by no means an expert in electrics or wiring, so I keep my soldering and electrical ideas to the simplest of mods. My issue with this setup was that I need the battery pack to still be removable once all the junk has been piled on it. So I'm simply lengthening the wire to the bulb. I strip all of the 4 ends with a wire stripper and use the solder seal wire connectors to secure the cut wires to each other. All that is required is for you to shove the wires into the sleeve and quickly hit it with a heat gun to shrink the shrink wrap. So it was here as this light bulb turns on that I decided what I was going to build and make a astronaut of sorts. It was the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking about what would have a large pack on their back. So my next move in this build was to do a bit of culling. What I mean by that is I have a large bin of interesting plastic bits, a bin full of model kits, a bin full of fur, a bin full of electronics, etc., I'm going to pull out a bin and start pulling objects that scream astronaut. I am simply looking at the forums and figuring out what I think I like and don't like for the build at hand. Generally, half the stuff that I pull out may not end up getting used and get thrown back in the bin for later use. I am simply trying to wrap my head around the idea of what this prop will be. If I get stumped, I can sketch it out on paper. If not, I can just let it fly. So these are the bits I settled on for my base. I take my pile of trash and do a bit of nulling, which is where you put like things together so that you can get a visual inventory and then start piecing it together from the body out. Any interesting looking bit of plastic or packaging I hoard, telling myself that I will someday use it. A few of these proud bits of applesauce caps, bubble blower lids, a snow globe, soda streamer container, elbow joints, cheap furniture rollers, a solar panel light from the dollar store, and various links of PVC will make the final cut. My goal in this stage is to make a base for details to go on later. With a pack or two of hot glue at my side, some well-placed screws, super glue, and a touch of luck, this organized assembly of junk should hopefully hold together. Hopefully. Now I need to build out a few areas to get ready for the top layer of details. In my mind, when I'm thinking of an astronaut, the arms and leg joints usually either have some weird articulating contraptions, or they look like the accordion vent connectors on the back of my laundry drying machine. So I'm going to wrap the braided cord from a broken pair of headphones in those areas to mimic that structure. I use a mix of super glue and hot glue to secure it and fill gaps as I go. 10 cool points if you can guess what that chest plate is made from down in the comments below. 1 million cool points if you can guess what build I already used the other bits of that thing for also. If you are a model maker and love putting together kits like this, skip this next section, because I'm about to rip into this bit of sprues like a jackal picking through the leftovers of a lion's kill. So now I'm thinking about the top layer of details. For this, I'm gonna go to another bin to do some culling. I buy tons of plastic model kits from various franchises and subject matters with no intention of building the actual model. Like a lot of makers, I hoard these boxes for the cool little greeblies within their extruded sprues, fresh for the picking. I use 2 different Gundam kits, a tank kit and an airplane, to fill in gaps and bulk out my astronaut. This can be like putting together a puzzle with no idea what the picture will look like at the end, except in this puzzle experience, if the pieces don't fit, I can cut them and shove them where I want. It's starting to take shape and I still have bits that need interest. After a couple of hours holding various parts up to the build on his lower back, I decide to pull out some EVA dowels to add some details. EVA foam sticks great to most surfaces with super glue, and it's a great source for my final pass of random pieces. I could have added a lot more stuff to it, but at some point you have to decide when your amalgamation has reached the tipping point of being too much stuff. So I am just going to give my chunky boy a little bit of rolls on his backside and maybe add a few greeblies on top of the foam. I have covered this build in all the gaps with a ridiculous amount of hot glue. Some bits are more hot glue than they are plastic, like his hands. If you've ever used hot glue, you have grown familiar with the stringing webs that come off the glue gun as you pull back. Now, you could patiently pull off each individual strand, and I just ain't got that kind of patience right now. I gotta get this thing done. So another way that you could attack this is quickly hitting it with a blowtorch. It doesn't take a lot and you can nuke those webs into oblivion, allowing you to move on to the next part of this project, painting. Two solid coats of black flat spray paint and primer. Now with all my surfaces at a unified color, with the exception of the taped off bulb at the top there, it's time for an epic paint job. You could painstakingly paint each of the little bits and take hours meticulously going through and putting in color schemes, or you could do a couple of layers of dry brush with progressive light tones of similar colors to make all those details stand out with minimal effort. Seeing it sped up almost looks like magic or video editing tricks, but I assure you, the more sloppy and sporadic your splattering of paint hitting the high points, the better it looks. As I make additional passes, I hit fewer parts, and once it is dry, I pick certain parts to then hand paint to differentiate the colors. I even added a little bit of white on the toes, chest, and back panel to give some more contrast. My last pass of paint is to dry brush on some metallic wax paints to make it look like scraped metal. I first hit it with some silver rub and buff on random edges where I feel like the suit would get the most wear. Then on the jetpack on his back, I added some metal discoloration effects to the blasters with some gold, red, and blue metal luster wax paint. And with that, the applesauce caps are transformed into heat blasted metal parts. I hope you enjoy this pile of trash build and start to look at your throwaway bits in a different mindset. You never know, one man's trash could be another man's spacesuit. Pretty sure I got that saying right.
And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty cool. I like how his feet still kind of wiggle there. I thought that was cute. The rest of his body does not. I did make it so that the battery pack was still accessible, and I think it turned out pretty cool. It's definitely a hunk of junk, and it slightly resembles a astronaut or some kind of space marine or miner or something like that, and gives off a pretty cool aesthetic, I think. It was cool enough that when I showed it to my wife, she said, "Can we keep it?" So you get a lamp. Maybe you'll try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with the ability to throw random junk together and make it vaguely resemble something that could be considered an object you'd want to keep. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. Time to go, like, put it in a closet and just see if she notices. Peace out.
If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.